The Lightning had as many goals on the Panthers' power play as they did. How much would that matter in the Battle of Florida? Plus, the New York Rangers shut out for the 8th time this season. Rivalry night up and down the lineup, and the holiday cheer is gone as a result. Just ask a couple of the teams in Florida. All that and more coming up on Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before, only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into Locked On NHL Game Night. We are back from the holiday break. We're, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, and we're thrilled to have all of you with us. Reminding you, of course, as always, check the show out in podcast form, wherever it is you get your podcasts from, or check it out on YouTube. You can like, subscribe, follow, comment, all that fun stuff. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Alex Wiederspiel. I write about hockey for Yardbarker, and I hang here on Locked On NHL Game Night from time to time. This is Shukri Wrights here with us back from the holiday break. Shu, I feel like it's been forever since we've done a show together. Good to have you, man.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while. It's good to be back for sure. And, 3 days does not seem like a long time in terms of a grand scheme of things, but in hockey terms, 3 days is a long time. And man, when I tell you, when 6 o'clock came on Saturday night, it was like the gates flow wide open and say, hey, here's a mad rush of hockey. 13 games on a Saturday night, and there were some real good ones tonight.
There were a ton of good ones tonight, and even the ones that weren't good were kind of good, if that makes sense. There were games that weren't good, that were full of storylines. We're going to get into all of those. There were two fantastic games. To me, they're the 1A and 1B. They're like when the Red Wings had Hasek in net. Was it Hasek and Osgood or Hasek and Vernon that they had together?
Yep.
That's what
Hasek and Osgood.
Yeah, that's what these games were like. That's how good they were. Let's start with what I think is quickly becoming the most the rivalry most full of hate in the entire NHL, Tampa Bay and Florida. And here's the thing. We haven't had a chance to talk about this before. So folks who watch the show, who listen to the show will not know this. I am not like a diehard when it comes to like hard edge and I'm not Mr. You gotta stand up for your teammate. Like I'm not all about penalty minutes. How can you not at least get a little bit of a kick out of a game that felt somehow simultaneously like a postseason game and a preseason game had an illegitimate love child? That was Tampa and Florida tonight, where it had a playoff atmosphere, but 136 penalty minutes, 45 total penalties, 11 Florida power plays in this one, and Tampa gets the win 4-2. And I think the biggest moment of this one, Jake Gensel scores a shorthanded goal. So Tampa, who went 0 for 6 on their own power play, had as many goals on the Florida power play as they did. They get the win tonight.
I mean, this was a crazy game, no matter how you slice and dice it. And the fact of the matter is that somehow, the tea kettle was boiling in South Florida, and I had the biggest smile on my face because you saw the hate and the animosity you saw between the two teams at the beginning of this decade that I feel like you haven't really seen a ton like in recent years, with the exception of the playoffs last spring. But man, when I tell you, tonight's game was absolutely just filled with so many different storylines, like whether if it was like the Panthers taking a 1-0 lead and then like, oh, by the way, once the Panthers had a 1-0 lead, it was all Tampa Bay afterwards. It was 3 straight goals that was unanswered by the Lightning. And man, like this game was just a lot of feistiness, a lot of skill, a lot of grit, no quit. But I tell you, this Lightning team, they continue to really show everybody that like after a slow start to start the year, that this Lightning team, man, is looking like the Lightning team at the beginning of this decade in which that they went to 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, and they are scary to watch right now.
They really are. Tampa doing this all still really banged up without Victor Hedman, without Ryan McDonough. Andrei Vasilevsky was really good in this game. He's been banged up at times this year. Tampa gets the win. Let's give the final word on this one to Armando Velez of Locked On Florida Panthers.
The Panthers power play truly let them down on Saturday night as they went 1 for 10, and it results in a loss against the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 4-2. An empty netter at the end to make it worse than the final score actually indicated. But the Panthers got the first goal of the game after struggling in their first power play just seconds after that. And then it was 3 unanswered goals as the Panthers were unable to defend off of the rush by the Bolts, and converting quickly had them up big. And just like the first matchup against the Lightning, the Panthers, Brad Marchand scored quickly on the power play, but they couldn't convert after that, especially where there was a lot of these post-whistle scrums that were initiated by the Tampa Bay Lightning in order to get under the Panthers' skin, but that part of the game was the downfall of the Panthers in this one. We'll break all this down and more on Monday's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Real quick, just the last thing I'll say on this, just because I got a huge kick out of it. I was watching this game at the same time as a couple of others. And I had it on the big screen in my office, and every single time I looked up, one of two things was occurring. Either they were actually playing hockey and the pace was outrageous, lightning fast, crazy saves, crazy goals.
Yeah.
The speed was unbelievable. Or they were beating the crap out of each other. It was one
or
the
other.
Exactly,
right.
The whole time. Unbelievable game. I would like to see a 7-game series between these two badly. I really think a 7-game would be. We didn't get that last year. Banged up Tampa team got taken to kind of to the woodshed by Florida. I think if Tampa could get there healthy this year, I think a 7-game one between these two would be a lot of fun. I know Florida's not healthy either, but we could have some fun with that.
For sure. Like, we'll have to wait and see what happens, but I definitely would not be opposed to seeing a 7-game series between these two teams.
No. Colorado and Vegas, this is another one. I need 7 of these. And Vegas, great performance tonight without Jack Eichel and Shea Theodore, both still out. You're missing your number 1 defender. You're missing your top center. And still, Vegas held their own with Colorado. This game had a lot of things going on. So Colorado erases 3 different deficits, including twice down by 2 goals. Marty Necas' third period goal gets the Avs really cooking in the third. They would outscore Vegas 3-1 in the third to force overtime. Kudos to Vegas on a couple of things. Their game plan was really good. They got behind an aggressive Avs defense on 3 of their 5 goals, and then one of them was a 2-on-1 rush, so essentially the same idea. But if you look at what they did, Holtz off of a face-off on what appeared to be a designed play, Brett Howden at the end of the second, a redirection. He's gotten really good at that play itself. Colton Sissons with a great take in the third, driving hard to the net. And none of it mattered in a sense. Yeah, they get a point out of it, but the Avalanche, they look like the team that hates to lose more than they love to win. That's what I thought the minute they came to play in the third period.
And that was the truth. And you thought, for a lot of people that have been following the Avalanche, just following the league in itself this entire season, the Avalanche, they are without question a behemoth of a team that hasn't gone through a whole lot of tests. Tonight was probably the biggest statement, in my opinion, that the Avalanche have delivered this season. They fall behind 2-0, in which that Holtz scored the first goal for Vegas. Barbashev scored the second goal for Vegas. And then, oh, by the way, obviously the 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in hockey, but it was the response. Gerard cuts the lead in half. And then Necas ties it up at 2. But then, oh, by the way, they fall behind 2 goals again. Hutton scores to make it 3-2 Vegas. Howden scores to make it 4-2 Vegas. So at this point, you're like, this is just not their night. It's not their night. This is not going to work. But then after that, Martin Necas again. He scores to make it 4-3. And then now Nathan McKinnon, who right now has got to be the runaway favorite for the Hart Trophy this season, he ties it up at 4 for Colorado. And you just talk about this team that just doesn't die. And then Colton Sissons, he scored to give them the Golden Knights the lead, but then Lehkonen ties it up late in the third period at 5 apiece. But when I tell you that this team was tested throughout the night and they just won't quit. And that is part of the reason why there is no question in my mind that Colorado and what felt like what was their biggest test in a while this season, they passed. And they passed with flying colors.
By the way, Nate Mack also with the assist on that fifth goal for Lehkonen. And he had the winner in the shootout. Marty Necas also had a really disgusting dangle in the shootout where he actually lost his edge and still scored. Colorado gets the win. I don't think I said the final. Colorado got the win 6-5, by the way, with
in the shootout.
In the shootout winner, in case we didn't get to that. All right, let's talk about the Battle of New York. The Islanders and the Rangers. I don't think anyone actually calls it that, but the Islanders and the Rangers, historic rivalry. I've never heard anyone call it the Battle of New York before.
It's definitely not. And I'm a native New Yorker here. That's why I'm like, we don't call that.
Yeah, I've never heard. I don't think there's a name for it. It's just you just know Islanders Rangers. So the Islanders now after this one, they cumulatively lead the Rangers 7-0 this season. The Rangers have yet to score a goal on the Islanders. 2-0 final in this one. Both goals unassisted. And to be honest with you, I actually thought there were times where both these teams were kind of sloppy a little bit. The couple days off obviously may have had something to do with that.
Sure.
The Anders Lee goal that gave the Islanders what would ultimately be an insurmountable 1-goal lead. That was 58 seconds into this game. That was off of a terrible turnover by Carson Soucy. And then the Islanders added an empty netter almost 59 minutes later to seal the deal. 2-0 the final in this one. Igor stopped 24 of 25, thought he was spectacular. David Riddick stopped 27 of 27. The real MVP in this one, Dominic Critelli, 102 years old, and played the sax to open up with the national anthem in this one. Very impressive work, folks. Go find that on YouTube or Twitter/X, whatever you haven't seen it yet. He does a great job. 102 years old. That was the most impressive thing to happen in this game. But yeah, Rangers Islanders. It's funny. I feel like a lot of things didn't happen, but if you watch this game, a lot of things were happening.
Well, a lot of things were definitely happening, but what wasn't happening? Scoring on the power play, because both teams were absolutely terrible on the power play tonight. The Rangers were 0 for 3 in the power play, and then the Islanders were also 0 for 5. So special teams in that regard, goodbye. But however, you got to give credit where credit's due. Both goaltenders were actually terrific in this game. Shesterkin, unfortunately, he was on the losing end of this one. The Rangers, by the way, they were shut out for the 8th time this season, which is really unbelievable. To think about they've been shut out this many times. And then David Richards, the 27 save shutout as well. So for me, I thought the score was tight, but there was definitely not for a lack of passion, or not for the lack of the typical Rangers Islanders rivalry, because that is a thing in New York City. But this was a game that it was beyond clear for me that the Islanders took it to the Rangers from basically right off the face off.
All right, we're going to give, and the first 10 minutes of that game completely belonged to the Islanders. It took the Rangers a little bit to get back into it. Let's give the final word to John Chick of Locked On New York Rangers, then we'll take our first break.
Going into this season about how they wanted to play with some FU, and I saw basically none of that in this game against the Islanders tonight, and it's something that I think has mostly been lacking for the most part this season.
Yeah.
But it was especially apparent tonight given the fact that, first of all, it's the Islanders, which is supposedly one of your biggest rivals, and secondly, that it's the first game out of the holiday break here, right? So you figure this is the perfect time. It's gonna be a high intensity division matchup. Let's go get it. And instead, and I think this is indicative of where this rivalry is right now, because the Rangers-Islanders rivalry might not be dead, but I think it's on life support. These games are just slogs. There's, in the grand scheme of things, as well as tonight's game when these two teams play each other, there's no emotion. There's little flow to the game. They're just very sloppy, frankly, boring games that just never really seem to get out of first gear. And again, I think that was the case tonight. There were maybe 2 incidents of players coming together after the whistle, and they were both in the third period, and they weren't really all that intense. I don't know. It was a tough watch tonight. It was a tough watch for the Rangers, and another shutout loss. Going to break it down in the next episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Do not miss it.
One quick note on that: when you haven't played a playoff series against your big rival in 30 plus years, that'll tamp down the rivalry a little bit. Speaking of rivalries that don't need tamp down, we're going to talk about the Battle of Ontario coming up on the other side of this break right here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Our show brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play. Suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you are reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, player props that update as guys heat up. You can bet the next touchdown score, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com, place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, so let's jump into the Battle of Ontario. Toronto and Ottawa, 12 goals in this one, including an empty netter at the end. 3-point night for Austin Matthews, got his 15th of the season. Leafs nearly let a 5-2 lead get away from them when Ottawa cut the lead down in the third period to 5-4 with goals from Drake Batherson and Tim Stützle. Matthew Nyes would add an insurance tally to make it 6-4. That would ultimately hold up as the game winner in this one. The Leafs also get a power play goal on their first power play under new assistant coach Steve Sullivan following the firing of Mark Savard before the holiday. Before we jump into some more analysis, let's give David Marasuti the chance to have the first word from Locked On Toronto Maple Leafs.
It was a big offensive night for the Toronto Maple Leafs, beating the Ottawa Senators 7-5. David Marasuti from the Locked On Leafs podcast. And it looks like Austin Matthews is getting back to his offensive form, scoring a goal and adding 2 assists for 3 points after he went the last 4 games without a point. Matthew Nyes, 2 goals and assists in this one. Max Domi had 3 assists. And look, it was defense optional for both teams in this game. Toronto at one point had a 5-2 lead. The Senators made it 5-4 at one point, and then the Leafs push. They kept putting the offense in the third period to put a 7-5 advantage. Although concerning for the Toronto Maple Leafs, William Nylander did leave the game with an injury, a lower body injury. We'll see what the update could be on his status and more on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you, David. Shue, I got a simple question for you, man. Do you trust either of these teams right now the way they're playing?
I trust the Ottawa Senators more than I trust the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I don't know that I trust either of them. I
Well,
feel like
I have reasons why. I mean, you asked the question. I'm gonna give you an honest answer.
Go for it.
But,
go for it. No, go for it. Because I'm not sure I trust either of them at the moment.
I mean, the Senators I trust more, but the Maple Leafs not so much. But tonight, tonight was one of those games where it just left you just kind of scratching your head, like, okay, everybody's a little rusty. And the people have been drinking a lot of eggnog. I mean, Toronto said, you know what? Let's just give the good old can to Mark Savard. Bye-bye. Thank you for your services, but you are no longer needed. But, man, Toronto, tonight was just one night, but I need to see more.
One night. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Got to see more from them for sure. A team that is, I challenged them to show me more tonight. I tweeted about this earlier. Buffalo Sabres on a 7-game winning streak, but worth noting, those 7 games, they've all kind of been 7 coin flips that Buffalo had won. They won a bunch of those in overtime. They won one of those by 1 goal. And even in the games that they won by 2 goals, all 3 of those games featured an empty netter. So they were all tight at the end. Buffalo just happened to be on the better end of it. Well, they took it to the Boston Bruins tonight. Your Boston Bruins, Shue. A 4-1 final for Buffalo in this one. 8th in a row. Sabres outshoot Boston 34-22. They win the goal battle. They win the territorial battle in this one. The Sabres dominant in the second period where they got 3 goals. Big night for Buffalo. And I am starting to buy. Listen, I've been hurt before by the Buffalo Sabres. I am starting to buy that they might have something cooking here.
I'm not there yet, but however, when it comes to the Buffalo Sabres, like I will give them credit. Here's the thing: when Pasternak scored the opening goal in this game, I thought that okay, the Bruins, here they go. But that second period for Buffalo, you know what? They played with their pants on fire. But for the Boston Bruins, from their side of things, they look completely like donkey. Keeping it PG for the audience. If you understand what that means, you understand. But they played like complete donkey. So the truth of the matter is that, like, you saw like some of the young guys, like step up during that second period. Tage Thompson. I mean, stop me if you heard that name before. Also, like Peyton Krebs. He also stepped up as well. And I just thought that, like, for if you are like the Bruins, man, you've now lost 5 in a row and things have gotten bad. It's now downright ugly. But for the Buffalo Sabres, it is an interesting time because you thought that the Sabres team was pretty much left for dead, and here we are. Like, this Sabres team, certainly put up a statement tonight against the Boston Bruins.
Washington and New Jersey. This one would go to overtime, a rare loser point for the Devils. 4-3 final. Capitals get the win. Devils 8-11-1 since the Jack Hughes injury. He, of course, has been back for the last 3. They have not yet won one of those. Little bit of an improvement for New Jersey tonight. They had scored only, I think, 6 goals in their last 5 games. They get 3 tonight. Capitals also breaking a lengthy losing streak, though another third period collapse in this one for them. It doesn't cost them this time. Alex Ovechkin feasted on a broken defensive coverage to tie it at 3. The Devils scored twice in 32 seconds to get to that point in the first place. Jacob Chychrun with the overtime winner. And I guess the question is, for two teams who we both thought early this season they looked dominant at times, now the bigger question was, who needed this one more, Washington or New Jersey?
That's tough, but it's a good one. I mean, they certainly needed, the Devils, that is, they needed this one more. And
didn't get it.
And then they didn't get it. And the funny part about it is that the Devils, they certainly have had their chances tonight, but for some reason, like, what you ultimately saw was the resiliency of the Washington Capitals in this game, and it was something that Spencer Carberry talked about during post game. Hit the head coach of the Washington Capitals. Like, it was very ugly at times for the Capitals, and the Devils had this Capitals team playing on their heels, but the Capitals, they just kept coming. They just kept coming, and ultimately, they were able to break through. But like Jesper Bratt, he did score twice in this game, but man, like, the Devils, they're now back on another losing streak where they have now lost 3 in a row.
And one last one before we go to break. Carolina and Detroit. This had potential, 2 division leaders, to really be a good one. Carolina took it to the Red Wings tonight in this one. Can't say I'm totally surprised, but I think the way the Canes won this game, just a dominant second period. Carolina got 2 goals inside of a minute, 3 in the period. Ultimately, that was the difference. 3-point games for Andrei Svechnikov and Shane Gostisbehere. Really not much positive to say about Detroit. They were blitzed in the possession game. Yeah. Canes really were able to sit back in the third, and just a rough game overall for Detroit. The puck management wasn't good. Carolina was entering the zone at will, and the goaltending wasn't there to clean it up. So not one that Detroit is going to want to remember coming out of the holiday break.
Oh, definitely not. And the thing that I find to be fascinating about it was that Carolina, they were very much like hell-bent on ending their 3-game losing streak tonight, and they played like it. And the thing that I found to be interesting is that like Brandon Bussey in his first NHL season, here's what's interesting. He's now 12-1-1. And tonight, I thought he made some key saves to keep Carolina in it. And for the Red Wings, they had won 3 in a row coming into this one. They were playing some really good hockey. But however, tonight wasn't their night. John Gibson, prior to this game, he had won 8 straight starts, but lost this one, unfortunately. And for me, like, Svechnikov was just absolutely, like, massive, and as well as Shane Gostisbehere as well.
Let's take a real quick break. Coming back up, we'll get through the rest of the games. You would not believe how many 1-goal games we still have left to talk about. 5 of the 6 remaining games tonight all came down to 1 goal. We'll get to all of them coming up in our final segment right after this here on Locked On NHL Game Night. All right, here we go. We're going to power through, and let's start with Minnesota and Winnipeg. This one had some controversy. Minnesota ultimately gets a 4-3 win in overtime, 3 assists for Quid Hughes, including on the tying goal with 22 seconds left, and the OT winner, 61 seconds of game action later. The Wild only mustered 19 shots, but the quality of those shots was very high tonight. Winnipeg now has just won 3 of their last 17 games, which is the exact point when Connor Hellebuck went down. Played a good game against a good team tonight and still couldn't get 2 points out of it. The controversy just before the tying goal, Josh Morrissey took a pretty nasty, what either maybe was a board or a cross check, uncalled, and then moments later, a call the other way leads to a Minnesota 6-on-4. Zuccarello scores on a disgusting Kaprizov dish, by the way. Absolutely filthy, no-look backhander, and that ties the game, sends it to overtime. Kaprizov also with a disgusting goal earlier. He was good all night. He's ridiculously good.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know if you got a chance to see that play. I think a couple of things are true here. Winnipeg needed to find a way to close this game out, but that was not the best look for the officiating crew. Not calling the Morrissey, the hit on Morrissey, and then immediately getting Winnipeg for a foul right after it.
I hated the fact that hit on Morrissey wasn't called. That's number one. Number two, the referees, shame on you. Like bluntly, shame on you. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But what I will say is this: there's something about this Wild team since the acquisition of Quinn Hughes. They just look different. Like I can't put words to it just yet, but I'm going to try right now. They look like a different team offensively. And it's not just like the run and gun style of offense I'm talking about. I'm talking about like they're confident, like they are sure of themselves. Matt Boldy had a multi-goal game today. He scored twice in this one, including the OT winner, by the way. So for me, like the thing that I find it to be fascinating is the fact that that Minnesota, they just have this new air of confidence offensively that I just didn't see at times early this season, and including Matt Zuccarello, who by the way, who scored the tying goal at 19:38 remaining of the third period on the power play, no less. And like also as I mentioned about Quinn Hughes, 3 points, 3 assists.
I think, by the way, what one of the things that I feel like you're hitting on here is that the Hughes and Faber. I haven't looked at the numbers to see just how good they've been, but I think
it's been a game changer.
Yeah, I think
it's been a game changer. Yeah,
I think part of what it is all of a sudden Minnesota has something that most NHL teams don't have. Maybe Colorado has it, and that's they have an Olympic top pair. Right, that could be a top pair for an Olympic team, and a potentially medaling Olympic team as well. So I think that has something to do with it. Let's power through. We still have a bunch of these 1-goal games. Calgary and Edmonton, the Battle of Alberta, and Calgary never trailed in this game. Great response after they got blasted by the Oilers and Connor McDavid's 5-point night right before the holiday. The Flames continue to hang around. I'm not saying that they're going to be a playoff team, but they're looking less and less like the doormat they started the season at. The goaltending has improved as the season has gone on. They continue to play hard. Connor McDavid does get a goal tonight to extend his point streak, 32 points in 12 games. 2 more games this month. He will have a chance to do some really crazy stuff stat-wise, potentially, stuff that only Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky have done in a single month if he can get a few more over these next 2 games. Calgary, though, gets the win, Shu, over Edmonton 3-2. They've actually won 2 out of 3 over Edmonton so far this season.
Impressive, especially in the Battle of Alberta. And for me, like the way I look at it is the fact that you talk about, despite the fact that the Oilers lost to the Flames, that Connor McDavid has been on some sort of a point streak run, which has now been extended to 12 games. And then also, like what you're seeing right now is a player, probably the best player in the world right now, who really is, I wouldn't say fine tuning his game, but it just seems like he's revving up the engine before Team Canada heads over to Italy. But lastly, in terms of the Calgary Flames, like you gotta give them credit, like where they continue to just show a great deal of fight, a great deal of just zeal, like not giving up at all, especially on Lombard giving on the Flames a 2-1 lead late in that second period, and then Blake Coleman pushing it to 3-1 early in the third period as well.
Love me some Blake Coleman. If the Flames want to trade him and if Coleman's willing to waive, I think they're going to get a pretty good haul for him, but we'll see. Chicago and Dallas. This one went to a shootout tonight, and the Blackhawks finally get off the schneid, as folks like to say. They had lost 6 straight. They had not won a game since Connor Bedard went out, showing how important Connor Bedard is to this Chicago team. 2-goal night for Tyler Bertuzzi, 2 assists for Alex Vlasic, 3-point night for Mikko Rantanen in defeat, and 2 for Wyatt Johnston. Ultimately, Chicago gets the win in this one, a 4-3 final in the shootout. Chicago has not looked good without Bedard. They do actually have a pretty decent night tonight against a pretty decent team.
They haven't looked the same since Bedard went down with the injury. And even though like tonight, they were certainly Chicago, they did their part to end their 6-game losing streak on a 4-3 shootout win over the Stars. This was a much needed win for the Blackhawks because they needed to get that confidence back, and as well as consider the fact that Chicago, they didn't have a border escape out of the way, and like that, which I thought that was interesting, but it's also understandable considering that they were coming out of the holiday break, and as well as for the fact that they also have a home game tomorrow night against the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. So, but you see like the perseverance for the Chicago Blackhawks, which they showed despite the fact that the Moose was loose in Dallas. Mikko Rantanen scoring in this one, who had a 3-point game.
Los Angeles and Anaheim, another rivalry game, and boy, the Kings took some stuff out on the Ducks tonight. This one was 4-0 quickly, and the final 6-1. Alex Laferriere with a hat trick in this one. Eddie Garcia, our buddy, our partner in crime here, and the host of Locked on LA Kings, has all the data on this one.
The Kings apparently asked Santa for some goals for Christmas after scoring 2 or fewer goals in 7 straight games heading into the holiday break.
That was great.
Well, I guess it worked as the Kings scored 4 goals in the first period of their game against the rival Anaheim Ducks en route to a 6-1 victory against the team that came into the night tied for first in the Pacific Division. Alex Laferriere, who is turning into one of the most reliable performers night in and night out for LA, scored his first career NHL hat trick. He's also a duck killer, now 7 goals in his last 6 games against Anaheim. Goalie Anton Forsberg, still in for the injured Darcy Kemper, allowed 1 goal on 25 shots, and Kings captain Andrei Kopitar picked up 3 assists to move 9 points away from passing Marcel Dion to become the LA Kings all-time leading scorer. The Kings had lost 6 of 7 coming into this game. LA is obviously hoping this big win can get them moving in the right direction.
And worth noting there before we jump over to the next game, the Ducks have now lost 6 of 8. So some adversity for that young team. A couple years ago, we saw them fold when they hit this. We'll have to see if Joel Quenneville can have any kind of a different impact on them. How about this one, Shu? St. Louis and Nashville, 2 teams that have been playing better. They had been doormat teams. They're still down near the cellar of the NHL, but showing some, I don't know if I want to use the word promise, but showing some life at least. St. Louis, 2-goal night for Pavel Buchnevich, 2-assist night for Robert Thomas, 30 saves for Joel Hofer on 32 shots. Brayden Schenn gets his 700th point. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what it was supposed to look like for the Blues, who got off to that just horrible start. They are 8-6-1 in their last 15 and still nowhere near a playoff spot. I guess the question is this: can the Blues ramp it up a little bit more and maybe get back into the race?
That's going to be a huge, huge question, especially as we now march towards the Olympic break. And it's going to be a gauntlet because it's not going to be easy in the West. But can they do it? We'll have to wait and see. But a lot will have to go their way in order for that to happen. But ultimately, it was a good win for the Blues. And I thought it was interesting also the fact that the truth is, coming out of the holiday break, first periods are usually, they're usually not the best. They tend to be on the sloppier side. Go ask the Ducks in their first period game against the Kings, that holiday rust. So for me, I do think it's really going to be wait and see when it comes to St. Louis Blues in terms of them getting back into the playoff race.
All right, final game. This one was not a 1-goal game. The Sharks went berserk in this one.
Yeah.
Macklin Celebrini gets his 20th, quietly has 57 points on the season. That dude is
Good
going to take
Lord.
home some kind of hardware. But the big story is Igor Chernyshov, who I can't wait to see him and Michael Misa get reunited. Former junior line mates. He had 2 points tonight, including his first career goal. He has 5 points in his first 5 games with the Sharks. Vancouver got all their goals on special teams in this one. Power play goals for Linus Karlsson, Marco Rossi, and then Drew O'Connor scored a shorty. The other big story, Elias Pettersson back. He had been out back, and we'll have to see if that can turn around Vancouver's season at all. I'm not sure how big of an impact he really had tonight. Sharks really dominated the possession battle. They had 20 high danger chances in all situations. And by natural stat tricks numbers, they had 6 expected, or almost, if you round up, they had almost 6 expected goals. They had 6 goals on the night. They hit the number right on. Sharks break a 3-game losing streak. Canucks have now lost 3 straight. And boy, man, the Sharks' young talent is so exciting.
Really is. And then for me, Macklin Celebrini is going to make the decision makers for Team Canada like absolutely lose their hair, because there's no way at this point in juncture that Celebrini should be left off of Team Canada's Olympic roster. And the thing that, and just and lastly, real quick, like Celebrini, and like he has had 14 points like in all like during his streak, in which that he's just been on fire with the 5 goals and 9 assists. And when I tell you that this is a young player that has really taken his game to a whole nother level. We knew how special this on this player is, but you're seeing it now like on a nightly basis watching the Sharks play.
All right, folks, that'll do it for us. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On NHL Game Night. Eddie Garcia and Mike Osti will be on the Sunday show. If you want to talk puck with us, I'm on social media as you can find me at the Radio Spiel. Shu, what's your social real quick?
At SWrights975. That is my Twitter handle, and that's where you can find me as well.
And we're always happy to talk a little puck with folks. If you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, there is a Locked On NHL Team pod and YouTube show for you. We've got one for every NHL team. This show, Locked On NHL Game Night, is here for you each and every night of the regular season and the playoffs, wrapping up the entire night in the NHL. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this show if you're watching on YouTube. We want to see your thoughts on tonight's games in the comments section. That will do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. For Shukri Wrights, I'm Alex Wiederspiel. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.